Welcome back, anime fans, to another episode of Ghost in the Cloud, your anime podcast. This is John, and with me is Bridget.
Hey!
And this week, we are talking about Fate Zero. But before we get into that, as we do every week, we're going to start with some anime news.
Yeah, news. Alright, so first in news, the official website for the Godzilla anime film trilogy revealed 5 additional cast members on Monday. And you heard that right, a Godzilla anime movie. So the first film, Godzilla, Planet of the Monsters, will open in Japan on November 17th, and it will stream globally on Netflix service this year. Woo!
Niantic hosted a Pikachu event in Japan this past week, following a disastrous event held here in the States. However, the Japan event went smoothly, and Niantic released the legendary Pokemon Mewtwo at the Pokemon Go Stadium event in Yokohama Stadium. Niantic also announced that Mewtwo will soon be available to players around the world in a new exclusive raid battle feature. Get out there, trainers. I know I'll be. I love this game.
So bad. We're kind of big on this game. John more than me. He's the one who keeps me into it because he's so excited.
Every day. Gotta keep playing.
You can't not be excited seeing him play this game.
Gotta catch them all.
Yeah, unless he means it. He catches every single one that he finds.
No Pidgey left unturned.
No. And that's why he's so many levels higher than me. But we have all the legendary birds that came out, so there's that. So, last in news, the live-action Naruto movie that's being helmed by Lionsgate has begun rewrites on the script. So, the latest development for the project is that John and Eric Hober, known for their take on the adaptation of Warren Ellis' comic Red, have been tapped to do the rewrite. And another live-action anime this year. What? Or hopefully this year.
Well,
but Naruto is a big one, so it must be like they're seeing all the other friggin' live actions coming out this year, and they're like, oh, we better make this epic, guys.
For
Let's
fans
start over.
Everywhere, they better get this right.
Yeah, so they're probably like, you know what, not good enough. Let's start over. So hopefully it's a good one.
All right, that's it for news this week. Next up, word of the week.
Yeah, word of the week. So we're starting the Fate franchise with Fate Zero. So word of the week is Fate, and in Japanese, it's Unmei.
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 Unmei. Yeah, it sounds kind of cute for something as deep as Fate, but Unmei. But in Japanese, the title of the show is Fate to Zero. It's not Unmei.
All right, for those who haven't seen this show, spoiler warning.
Spoilers!
But Fate Zero came out in 2011, and it's based on the Japanese light novel written by Gen... Oh, man, I get the worst names. Urobuchi, and I'm sorry I'm sorry if I butchered it. Illustrated by Takashi Takechi, and is a prequel to
Takeuchi.
Oh, man. To All Roots in Type Moon's visual novel, Fate Stay Night. Fate Zero is set 10 years before the events of Fate Stay Night and tells the story of the Fourth Holy Grail War. It was produced by Studio Ufotable.
Okay.
Studio Ufotable, and began airing in 2011. It is a total of 25 episodes.
And also, just a side note that, this show did come later than some of the other Fate shows, but the timeline of the shows, it technically takes place first, so we thought that would be a good place to start. So some people argue that this is the best one to start with, because even though it came later, there are some nice releases of information in this show that if you had watched the other ones first, it would have kind of spoiled it for you. So I watched this one first myself.
So did I. And I think I preferred it.
Yeah, I think I liked...
in that order.
Yeah, I do like that I saw this one first. So there's that.
So as I said, the anime tells the story of the Fourth Holy Grail War, a secret magical tournament held in Fuyuki City, Japan, where 7 magicians known as Masters summon servants, reincarnations of legendary souls and heroes from all across time, where they fight in a deadly battle royale where the winner obtains the Holy Grail, a magical legendary chalice capable of granting wishes. So off the bat, you get this world that magic is a way of life. It's sort of in everything that's you do, and either you have it or you don't. And even if you do have it, there are levels of Magnus.
Just give up.
Magicians.
Magi.
There are a level of magicians.
Yeah.
And every magician sort of has their own sort of shtick. They have their own abilities and
you
whatnot.
have magical families, long bloodlines of families, it's a tradition.
The Holy Grail, this magical item, and if you don't know what that is, it's sort of stems from Christianity and like sort of old folk tales and fables, and it's this chalice that can ultimately give eternal life, grant wishes, stuff like that.
Yeah, and then it's supposed to grant one wish to the winner.
Right, and the Holy Grail apparently is such a powerful magical item that it selects 7 master magicians to fight to the death.
I mean, it's not necessarily to the death, but the servant must die. I mean, there have been people who have lived through the war, like, for instance, Waver. But his servant does die. They're, like, reincarnated for this war.
However,
it usually ends up that the master dies too, because it's a bloody battle.
It is a bloody war. And what confused me about the show is, although everyone's sort of aware of the Holy Grail War, if you bear witness to this war, you are supposed to be removed. And if you come across this thing happening, mages are going to go out and pretty much hunt you down and kill you. Which just kind of like blew my mind. Because like, how would people know
They seem like so
this?
matter of fact about it. But again, they had like these master families, so these like magic families.
And it's just become a way of life. This is
the
fourth
like the
Holy
knowledge
Grail
is
War.
like passed down, you know.
So the idea is that all of these masters and their servants are fighting one another to be the sole owner of the Holy Grail, which will grant them their wish. Both master and servant get a wish. That's the goal. That's like what everyone is driving towards. And you get a variety of different characters with different goals and different personalities. And as these masters progress, you begin to understand who the servants are, and it's really fun.
There's so
and
many
interesting
like
to
dynamics
just
and relationships,
understand and like realize who each of the servants are. I know when I finished, not even when I finished the show, as I was going through the show, I said to myself, "Oh, that guy reminds me of so and so," and I had to look it up, and in fact, I was like, "Oh, that's really a cool idea that you could summon these like historical people from all across time to do battle. They weren't just your mindless servant; they were as if they were when they lived." You get characters like, as you mentioned, Waver.
Yeah.
And Waver's servant is Ryder. Ryder is in fact Alexander the Great.
Yeah, which is really funny.
Which is kind of crazy to think about.
I really liked that character.
In this particular show, all of the servants are based on these historical and mythical beings.
It's kind of funny because there's so many different contracts between master and servant, all these different relationships that are building at the same time. So there's a lot going on, not just in the battle, but socially. Like some of the servants don't even like their masters. Like you see them kind of thrown together in this war that just starts.
Yeah,
and then trying to work together. And some of them don't want to be there. Like Castor and his master, they didn't really even partake in the war. If anything, they almost ended it. They almost like disrupted it because they were off just doing their own thing. There was just so much happening.
So the Holy Grail gives these masters the opportunity to summon these servants. Now the master has to have sort of a holy relic to a degree in order to summon specific servants. The servants are significantly stronger than the masters, so the masters are given what are known as command seals. And they have 3 command seals, which essentially is a magic binding spell that forces the servant to do exactly what the master wishes. Now, normally the servant would want to obey the master anyway because the servant is drawing on the master's magical energy. And that is how they back living in the world today.
I mean, I guess there's some instances where you would have to use a seal to force them to do something that they might not want to do.
And the truth is, some of these servants are so arrogant and so bloodthirsty. It's just like, it's kind of terrifying to imagine being one of their masters. Now, there are 7 characters that are chosen to be the masters, and each of them sort of have their own unique story and background. So you start with the main protagonist, Emiya. He's not exactly a good person.
No.
But like you cheer for him because his goal is ultimately a good goal.
He's got good intentions, which, you know, you kind of cringe when you hear that, you know, that phrase, because not a lot of good things have been done with good intentions.
So Kiritsugu, he's referred to as this magician killer. He is a ruthless assassin, and he works for the Einsburn family. Now, the Einsburn family they're a group of magicians, but they lack magicians who have sort of what they refer to as battle magic. They hire or sort of bring in Kiritsugu into the fold because because they know that in 8 years from now, and this is where the show opens, 8 years in the past, that the Holy Grail War is coming. So they bring him in to represent their family since they are one of the larger magic families.
He marries
Japan.
into the family.
He marries. Iris Vale is a very interesting character. She's a homunculus created specifically to give birth to what they refer to as the ultimate homunculus.
Yeah, which is like, wait, what?
When I hear the word homunculus, it reminds me of...
I think of Full Metal Alchemist. And I
right?
just that sad scene
but
with the
she's
girl and
essentially,
the dog.
in many ways, an exact replica of a human. Very magically attuned and powerful. Her body is in fact designed to absorb the energies released by servants when they are killed. She absorbs this energy, and that energy, once all of the remaining servants are dead except for the last one, then the Holy Grail appears.
Which technically kills her, doesn't it? I just remember a lot of death. And it's just hard to imagine it being any other way. It seemed to them that the only way to win was for everyone else to die. And I think for the most part, everyone did die.
Which is kind of great, in my opinion. I personally don't like... I shouldn't say I don't dislike happy endings. Each of these characters has their own terrible sort of fate. And before we get off on that tangent, Iris Vale, she is skilled in alchemy, and she serves as Saber's proxy master. So Saber, who is probably, I guess, the other main protagonist of the story.
With, I think, the coolest background. A punchline, too, because... And this is why I say watch this one first, although it's moot if you hear the spoiler without having watched it. But what they release about Saber's background is who she was when she was alive. And I really like how the writers of this anime took something that we know... Everyone grew up knowing the story of King Arthur. Everyone knows that story. There's been so many movies and shows about it, and yet they take it and they change it completely. The one basic thing that we knew was that it was a king. And in this anime, they're saying that it was a lie. And Saber's true name is Altria Pendragon, not Arthur Pendragon.
Which is such a cool concept.
So cool. So creative.
As a former English major, thank you. I had to constantly, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, go through all of these old tales for my classes. And I always loved the epic stories of Arthur and the knights and just the grandiose of it all. So the idea that history got it wrong
this one
is so fun.
And it's not even wrong. It was intentionally disguised. They did back up this fact. They said that, they even had Altria have a mock marriage to a woman to
further
to show, look, I'm a male. I mean, she had her hair tied back, the armor, the swordsmanship, and all for the sake of leading her country. If she had been, just because of the times, if she had been discovered as a female, then, she wouldn't have been able to do what she'd done. So very, very cool. So.
And she's very ideological. She wants the best for everyone. And that is kind of her downfall, but also her greatest strength. Now, if you don't know the story of King Arthur, what are you doing with yourself? Go read it.
Go get out there.
Go just
go
dive
read.
into it. Listen to a podcast on it. Find something. It's so fun to listen to those old stories. Because although they're ridiculous, they're great. And they're really fun to just sort of go through. So those are our three sort of main characters. What I should say is our good guys. And then we have a few of the bad guys.
Yeah, there's bad and then there's really bad.
So the way I like to sort of put it is you have your main good guy and your main good servant. So you have Kiritsugu and Saber, which is King Altria. And then you have the bad guy, and the bad guy is, in fact, in my opinion, two people, and it sort of gets played off. Oh, you hear the spike on... Oh, man, everything's popping.
Stay together.
Those two are Kirei Kotomine. He ends up being Master of Assassin.
Yeah.
And he studied magic under the other Kai I consider to be bad, although he's not really terribly bad. He's more just a manipulative individual. He's not...
He's arrogant. He's a dick.
Not necessarily a villain, but he is Tokiomi Tosaka, and he's the master of Archer. So Kirei, a big sort of overlapping plot point to the story is how involved the church is in these sort of everyday society things as well as the mages society. So it's decided by Kirei's father that he will work under Tokiomi and be sort of like his puppet. Little do you know, Kirei is kind of a lunatic. in his own way. He's not as bad as some of the other characters, but he finds, throughout the war, he interacts with Kiritsugu, and he finds that his own lack of fulfillment mirrored in Kiritsugu. And he kind of hates him, in a way, because Kiritsugu has this goal, he has this purpose in life, which is what he's completely lacking.
Yeah, he seemed to have a fascination for him.
And then there's Tokiomi Tosaka, and they go into a lot of background for him, which is interesting.
They do give each of the main characters some justice. They give him a nice background.
Because what we'll be discussing next week, his daughters play a large role in the follow-up series.
Yeah, Rin is one of the two main characters.
So Tokiomi is this very powerful mage. He's an arrogant, manipulative man. He's not necessarily evil, but
definitely not a family man.
He wants to win at all costs.
Yeah,
and
even if it costs his family.
He even gives away his daughter at one point to this other family.
Yeah, they sold her because they needed a magical heir. How about you guys? If you had a daughter, would you trade her for a magical artifact? Probably not.
I had two.
And then I think there was a scene later on where his wife, I think, was in jeopardy, and he kind of was just it didn't take priority, and he's just well, I'm in a battle, and I kind of let it be.
Self-centered.
Yeah, I think even his servant Archer was not. I mean, I guess Archer was also a bad guy.
Kirei's the Master of Assassin, who's not a huge sort of character. Tokiomi's Master of Archer, who is. So Archer is in fact Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is referred to as the King of Heroes.
Everyone knows that name, right?
He's arrogant and feels superior towards all masters and servants. Now, for those who don't know, Gilgamesh is the main character of the Epic of Gilgamesh, an Akkadian poem that is considered the first great work of literature, which is so cool to even think about. In the poem, Gilgamesh is a demigod of superhuman strength. His name even translates to the ancestor is a young man, which kind of is interesting because he's pictured in the show, he's drawn as this a pristine individual. He has perfect hair,
his armor looks like it's gold clad. And, even when he wasn't in his armor, he's wearing this flashy gold necklace, very gaudy, very flashy guy.
And he he has this arrogance about him where he's just I'm better than all of you.
Yeah,
you should all be bowing at my feet. I am the one and only.
I mean, he outright says it, but even when he's not, his demeanor is very condescending.
So real quick to recap on Assassin was Kirei's servant, and Assassin's actually composed of different personalities from one heroic spirit. So I did a little research, and I found that it was based off Hassan al-Sabah. He was a Nizari, I'm not going to say this right, Ismaili missionary. The man was just it seemed like he could do anything and everything. He once seized a fortress called Alamut, and he founded a group of Fedayeen, whose members are often referred to as assassins. He sort of created this Assassin's Guild, and that's, I think, what the assassin character is based off of, because there's not just one assassin. Right. There's multiple. They even fake the first assassin's death, make everyone think that the assassin and the assassin's master is out of the picture, when in fact now they get to work in the shadows.
That was really clever. But having the real history and the real old stories behind these characters was, I think, one of the more interesting parts of the depth of this story. It was just really well done.
And then you get a lot of what I refer to as sort of the secondary masters and servants.
Yeah, they're the side characters.
I think Waver and Ryder should be considered main characters. They get a lot of background story, and they are so much fun.
Comic reliefs are not always side characters or background characters. Sometimes they have a big part, but they're certainly not the main characters. Ryder is just he's such a cool guy. There was one scene where Ryder and Waver show up, and this big guy, he comes down, they expect him to start a fight, and he said he wanted everyone to sit down and have a drink together because they were all once kings of something, and they all wanted to sit down and talk about it. And he brought a barrel of wine or something, and they actually sat down and had drinks together. So the masters were especially Waver, young kid, was just wait, what? What is happening? And they literally just sat and had a drink. And he's cool guy, very chill.
So you get a lot of sort of magicians who are already in their craft and comfortable with their abilities. Waver is a student, but to prove himself, he actually steals his teacher's artifact, and that allows him to summon Ryder. And Ryder ends up actually being my favorite character, I think.
I think he's my
favorite servant. He ends up being Alexander the Great, known as the King of Conquerors. He's eccentric. He's overbearing, but
Big
he's
personality.
fun.
Yeah,
he has
so
so
much
much fun. He gets enjoyment out of the battle, out of the thrill of winning and victory.
He just likes conquering things. He
But,
literally enjoys that.
He's not a jerk about it, which
Yeah.
is great. So, for those of you who don't know, Alexander the Great was a king of the ancient Greek kingdom of Macedonia. Born in Pella in 356 BC, that's so long ago. King at the age of 20, which is insane. Imagine being a king at the age of 20. I can't.
I can imagine being queen at the age of 20.
I bet you could.
I'm just kidding.
Known as the King of Conquerors because he was undefeated in battle. He went across Asia and Northeast Africa and created one of the largest empires the ancient world has ever seen.
By the age of 30.
It stretched from Greece to Western India. But imagine owning, being the king of all of that.
Yeah.
The man must have been just truly great.
And he had a very simple wish, too, because, keep in mind, it's not just the masters that are looking forward to this wish, it's the servants, too. All he wanted to do was conquer until he hit the coast, ocean to ocean.
Something he had never done.
Yeah, all he wanted to do is keep conquering until he saw the ocean.
There's a fun bit in the show where he's doing research on the world as it is now, because he's shocked at how much it's changed. He comes across President Clinton, and he wants to essentially defeat Clinton and take his army as his own to rule the world. Because I guess at that time, I guess some people consider America's army to be the greatest army and the most powerful army, whether that's true or not. But I think it's a really fun little tidbit to throw in there.
He's like, I'm going to conquer that guy too.
I'm going to defeat him, and I'll conquer the world with his army. But he's such a fun character, and he's so ridiculous at times, but then he's epic. You have an instant sort of attraction to his character.
And him and Waver form a nice friendship.
And then now, I should say, we get into sort of the lesser characters. So you have this character, Maya, who is Kiritsuku's assistant. She's very cold, very professional. They are sort of, because Saber's working for Irisville, Kiritsuku and Maya go out and they are trying to take out mages outside of the normal tournament, I guess you would say. You have Kariya Matau. He's master of Berserker.
He has good intentions, but he doesn't, I feel like his actions also kind of reflect his good intent as well. He seems to stay more on the good path. He sacrifices a lot physically himself to get more powerful for the sake of a child. That's
true,
something.
which is
he doesn't
not even
have
his child.
No, and it was Rin's sister. So there was two sisters, and as we said earlier, one of them was sold or traded for a relic to this very cruel family that they needed a magical heir. So this poor girl, then and he really felt for her and the sister, and seeing what this girl had to go through now, he always tells her hang in there, and he was going to use his wish to grant her freedom. And he doesn't have much magic himself, so what he has to endure to become more powerful, it took a toll on his body. He changes a lot.
There's got to be more rules to the Holy Grail War, because my thought after was, why didn't he just use a command seal to kill his family? He doesn't have any sort of love for his family. I mean, I guess maybe he has some pride in what his family used to stand for.
I mean, maybe it's not even pride that would stop someone from murdering, slaughtering their family. Maybe it's humanity, and
he's willing to kill other people.
Yeah, but it's different when it's your own family.
Don't make me out to be a terrible person, please.
I know. Why didn't he just murder his family? Oh, I don't know.
Then you have Kanith El Meloy Archibald, Master of Lancer, and he's a 5th generation nobleman for the Magnus Association.
And this is the Archibald that Waver stole.
Yes, this is the teacher that Waver stole his
but he still, I guess he had a backup because he was still able to.
He's a very prideful man. He considers himself a top mage. And then the last master is a random
He was
person.
added in at the last second by the Holy Grail, and no one knew him because he wasn't someone who was seriously training as a magus. It's not like he was from any big family.
I think it's just Magus. Magus?
I think it's
Magician.
pronounced both ways. Magus?
We've heard it both ways.
We've heard it both ways. I've heard it both ways, John. Sorry, psych reference.
He's chosen by the Holy Grail itself.
Yeah, the Holy Grail is the one.
It requires 7 magicians. And although he's not really a magician, the reason they choose him is because he's straight up crazy.
Do you think?
And because of the things that he's doing. So he ends up being the master of Castor.
Another crazy
Right.
creature of a person.
He doesn't even really care for the Holy Grail itself. He just
was
wants to see
kidnapping
chaos.
kids and murdering them.
Which leads us to Castor himself, Gilles de Rais. An actual individual. He was a knight and lord of Brittany, a leader in the French army, and a companion in arms of Joan of Arc. He's best known for his reputation and later conviction as a confessed serial killer of children. And that's the character they based Castor on, which is insane.
Again, the servants don't have to like their masters, but this servant, Castor,
genuinely like
they
each
both
other because
like bonded
they're both-
over murdering children, which
they're
is
both crazy.
crude and terrible.
And in the show, he believes that Saber's Joan of Arc, someone he loved in life, and it sort of moves the story along because some of the other servants and masters then have to sort of team up to get rid of Castor because of how powerful and just straight up evil he is. You have Berserker, who ends up being Lancelot.
Yeah, so that was
cool.
That's a big spoiler. So he was just known as the Black Knight, and he wore this black armor, and he was like dripping with this like dark aura, and he seemed himself insane, and no one knew who he was. And then later in the show, he reveals himself as Lancelot, and everyone who knows the story of Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, Lancelot was the one that ended up falling in love with his wife Guinevere, right? So in this show, to pull off the disguise as a king, she married Guinevere, their mock marriage, but Lancelot fell in love with her. They're going to run away together, so she had to sentence her to death, and that's what drove
that's
Lancelot mad. I guess those were the rules of the time, that you get burned at the stake. As the king, it's a role, you have to be the role model, you can't have any exceptions. Lancelot, heartbroken, pissed, and has a vendetta against.
And then the last servant is Lancer. Lancer is based off the mythical individual Dermod. Dermod. His story comes from Irish mythology.
Yeah,
and according to
Irish.
his story, he's a skilled warrior, a well-liked and valued member of this sort of house. He's so good as a warrior, he single-handedly killed 3,400 warriors in battle to save members of that house. He's a knight who has a very strong sense of honor, and he even develops a mutual respect with some of the other masters and servants.
He was always very fair in a fight, too. He was very
like one
respectable.
of the cooler characters,
Can you imagine one person conquering 3,400 people?
I always kind of imagine myself.
I'm sure it wasn't all at once.
In epic battle sequences.
Yeah.
So, for me, maybe. But
dun, 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 dun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But those are your characters throughout the show. And the show progresses where each of them are sort of picking each other off. Kirei ends up killing Tokiomi and becoming the master of Archer. Because Archer needs a master to sort of steady himself in the real world. So now Kirei and Archer are working together.
Mm.
Meanwhile, everyone's fighting everyone else, slowly picking each other off. There's epic battle scenes. The animation is great. The music, I think, is a little lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, it was all right. It was more like, okay, that's nice, on with the show. Nothing memorable, it wasn't bad. I mean, there's so many good anime tunes out there that it just didn't stick in my mind.
So throughout the show, you get backgrounds of each of the characters. You get their battles and how they're taken out of the war. Some of them are killed, some of them aren't. You get really cool magical sequences, like Hiritsugu has like a ability to sort of manipulate time. Tokiomi has like a vast knowledge and vast supply of all these magical items that he has at his disposal. And it's like you get a lot of various different things. Waver is learning as he goes because he's a student. So it's really fun to watch.
Which he didn't do too bad.
It's interesting to parallel Waver and Ryder because Ryder's so interested in how the world is now. He's also trying to learn what is going on in the world today.
He spent a lot of his free time wearing like laying around in t-shirts, watching TV, snacking in Waver's bedroom. Do you remember that?
Yeah, he's just
reading manga, and
he never seemed worried about the battle to come.
He was so laid back. Yeah.
Honestly, I kind of wish he was the main character.
I know.
It's like why throughout the whole thing, I was kind of rooting for him.
I think most viewers would agree that he was one of the people you would root for.
So as the show progresses, other members are taken out, and you ultimately are left with Saber, Kiritsugu, Kirei, and Archer.
The flashy one.
Kiritsugu is sort of injured, and his ability to manipulate time he can do only so often. Kirei is injured. Both Saber and Gilgamesh are fighting each other. All of the servants have sort of these epic noble phantasms, and like they sometimes have more than one. For Saber, for example, she actually has the sword Excalibur.
Yeah.
She has the ability to not only conceal that sword, that weapon, so like people don't know if it's a sword, they don't know if it's an axe or if it's a spear.
They
don't
can
know
only
how
see the hilt. The rest of it is you can't see it with your own eyes.
Then you have Gilgamesh, who in life amassed this like huge wealth, and he has these stores and like essentially
arsenal.
A warehouse of just weapon after weapon that he
has
can like collected, and some of them are
at the same time too. Like,
right, like he can create a portal to where he can pull these weapons from, and these weapons are also like mythical weapons, like weapons held by like great warriors and stuff. Then you have Ryder, who's the other big character. He has a few noble phantasms of his own. Like he can summon this massive chariot that like brings down thunder and lightning.
Of course he can.
It's really it's a spectacular watch. It's fun to see how the anime sort of progresses, and you get to the final fight scene with those four characters: Kirei, Kiritsugu, Saber, and Archer, and ultimately Kiritsugu wins at the cost of Saber. He goes and he grabs the chalice. The Holy Grail has come forth, but they find out the Holy Grail has been tainted, corrupted by like evil magic. And his wish to bring about world peace can't come true. And it's kind of a heartbreak. He's gone through all of this terrible thing. He's given up his family. He's given all this up to
the dream of making the world a better place.
Right.
And after all that sacrifice, it's for nothing.
There's a lot of characters in this show that their fate is sealed. You get a lot of the characters fighting for something, and it doesn't matter how hard they fight because fate is fate and it won't change. The corruption of the Holy Grail starts to spew forth, and it's destroying the city. Kiritsugu has now lost all of his will, going through the rubble, looking for any survivors, and he comes across this boy.
Yeah, one survivor.
Who will later adopt, and who is in fact one of the main characters of next week's
one of the
episode.
two main characters of the show.
And that's what the show is. The show is just, it's about grandiose, and it's about epic battles and dreams that are worth fighting for but may not come true. And it's it's heartbreak, but it's so good. And this is one of my favorite newer animes that I've watched. Personally.
It's up there. It's up there for me, but I've seen so many good ones.
It's definitely, the show has received critical acclaim, genuinely getting 4 out of 5 stars, 9 out of 10s. It's well liked by many people. Like I said, the only thing I kind of wish...
There's another one that started to... They're still expanding the
They're always expanding,
franchise.
And they have video games. They have other books. They have light novels, and it's just it's very cool. And
I feel like the one thing about like this show is like it really shows what a dream can say about the person. Like everyone's dream like reflects like something like deeper in themselves, like the selfishness or the or the like the pure of heart. Like everything comes forth in like your deepest dream, biggest wish.
Currently, you can find it on Netflix and Crunchyroll, as well as Fate's Day Night, which I believe is the original, as well as Fate's Day Night Unlimited Blade Works, which is a alternate route. That one is the one we'll be covering next week. Unlimited Blade Works, which is a really fun, got some great twists in that show. Hopefully you're back next week to listen to more. And lastly, we'll talk about some Cosplay Corner this week, which we forgot to mention last week. Sorry about that, people. So for this week in Cosplay Corner, we wanted to shed some light on Roxmay Prack. She has a photo as Gilgamesh. She is a cosplayer.
And keep in mind, Gilgamesh was like the most involved, flashiest, coolest, like armored character. And this girl, she said that she made the costume from scratch herself. And you can see it's very well done and to the detail replicated Gilgamesh's armor. And
she looks great. So we retweeted that. So check us out on our Twitter.
And speaking of social media, our email is gitcanime@gmail.com if you have any questions, comments, concerns. And you can find us on Facebook and Twitter. And I actually also made an Instagram because I love playing with pictures. And
woo!
Yeah. And, so I post some pictures of like the shows that we cover and, just any excuse to take more pictures. So you can just search for GICC Anime and we'll pop right up.
Check us out on SoundCloud too, because Bridget, who is the workhorse of this podcast, she puts up soundtracks of the shows. She makes playlists, and you can get those on podcast from us. If you do like the show's music, personally, I wasn't the biggest fan, but hey, everybody likes different things, and that's all good with us.
For most anime shows, I feel like the music is such a big part of it. I have on like my personal SoundCloud account a humongous collection of just anime music, and I just shuffle it, and I do that like all the time. So yeah, every week I'll post the soundtrack, the best clips of the music from that movie or show that we cover, so it'll always be posted up at the same time. It'll also be available a day earlier with the episode for our amazing patrons on Patreon, so don't forget to check out our new Patreon account and become part of our awesome team.
Thanks again, Blake. You rock.
Yeah. All right,
so guys, get at us on Twitter, on Facebook. Check us out on SoundCloud. And again, rate, review, and let us know how we can improve the podcast on iTunes.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
See you next week.
Bye.